Sheila here with Sirius Dallas Moon, and this is Sol Hour, Jupiter Day. Sun is in the ninth house in Libra, applying to square Jupiter. Moon is 8 degrees Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. The Moon is 19 degrees Taurus, and Ascendant 27 degrees Aquarius. A couple of things I want to talk about. I want to talk about Mula Nakshatra, and Mula Nakshatra is basically the tropical area of the galactic center. So this is the end of Sagittarius, tropical Sagittarius, beginning of tropical Neptune. I have Neptune, Mula Nakshatra, Capricorn. And so this is a nakshatra that is associated with, I will try to interpret it through the galactic center. And the galactic center is around 26 degrees Sagittarius. This is a place where the sidereal sting of the Scorpio meets basically the next constellation. And this is a place where you can kind of think about it. The way I think about it is like a black hole. Everything gets sucked into the black hole, but it also emits light. So it draws in things and transmutes things. But what it looks like is a black hole. The planet that would be most compatible with that analogy is Pluto, because with Pluto we're getting a compost, something that seems to be like a magnet, and magnet is a strong power, but at first it looks like it's all junk down there. Okay, it's all junk. And then once gets basically when one has a Pluto transit, when one has a point in the galactic center, it gets drawn into that junkyard, and the motion around it begins to emit light. If you think about the compost, where that's a pile of junk moving, very ooey and gooey, decomposes, and then it is a fertile soil to grow the best greenery. I have a Melissa plant, lemon balm, that I bought today. It's very happy. You just hold the plant, and everybody's smiling at you. It's like the equivalent of walking with a pet. Although plants, I heard, don't like to be moved as much. Folks that are traveling in their RVs or something, do you grow plants? People that have to travel, because that can really make, if you're traveling, you're carrying something like that can really make your journey happier. But I heard the plants don't like to move as much. So here's the thing with Mula Nakshatra. I've made heaven and Neptune Mula Nakshatra. And often in my life I ask, what would be the one thing that changes everything? And this is indeed something that everywhere you read about in Vedic astrology, it connects to the root cause of things, particularly with Neptune. Neptune is hard to diagnose diseases, and Neptune carries also things to do with secret societies, mafia, drugs, prescribed and not prescribed, channeling, holistic medicine, that the dream state, what is real, what is not, illusion, disillusion, ideation, devaluation, loss, grief, the void. So that in itself is very Mula Nakshatra, because there is because it is a nakshatra that's to do with the galactic center, then this is where we get to the core of the matters in the galaxy. And there's a perspective that's not a personal perspective so much. In fact, when Pluto was crossing that point in my chart, I wrote a text about the black hole of humanity. And that was not looking lovely. So it was around 2007, before 2008. And that was the time where they did a very dark ritual in those Nazi secret societies. But that was around the time where I wrote that text. And at the same time, when you begin to transmute those core things, it emits the greatest light. And this is why this nakshatra is also associated. I have Ketu related to this nakshatra. It's probably more spiritual than materialistic. It might be the Wi-Fi of a millennia of wealth, but it is the Wi-Fi of that millennia. So think about the person that plants a tree that only when their grandchildren will be born will that tree begin to bear fruit. Think about the carob trees. And so this is why the natives of this nakshatra, or the placements in this nakshatra, have to do with the one thing that changes everything. It has both spirit and matter connotations to it. So if you ask me what do I see in this nakshatra now, I see the wealth gods being changed. If you think what is the one thing that changes everything, is the wealth rituals being changed. And Abrahamic God tried to do that with Abraham, but it was partial success. And so I know that they aim for like a one world religion and so on, but I'm not talking about 2030. I'm talking about something that I don't know what century will take place, but I can already see the trajectory. And that's the thing with Mula Nakshatra. Those that have, like, not Ketu, let's say they have a Rao closer to this nakshatra, these people can indeed be materializing a lot of wealth. For me, it's Ketu. I have Rao and Rohini. Yes, it's another another thing that, a moment of silence for those who try to do destiny swap with person in Rao and Rohini, because there's so many people vying for that, that is considered another one of those. But I have Rao Chiron. And basically, people should watch what they ask for if they want that. And this is the thing with destiny swap. Every person has certain thread of the soul and certain energy. And the best thing would be to do with what a person has, to do the best, because, and this pertains to Mula Nakshatra as well, because great wealth is meaning that this person transmuted a lot, okay, of energy, because wealth is energy. Is one energy transmutes to many things. For example, wealth can be being at peace during a storm. Okay, you might not have plenty of gold or plenty of this or plenty of that, but the being at peace during a storm can be a point of a lot of wealth. Whether that wealth incarnates, it can be that, let's say, a person is a parent or a person is a teacher, then that wealth might not incarnate as like piles of gold, but it means that the journey of the person lays the foundation to people that might later materialize on the principles of that spiritual foundation. Think about China, for example. The sky that punishes the land loses the mandate of the heaven, be it the leaders or the people. Okay? Just think about this spiritual reformation, okay, because they believe that the sky punishes the land. Just think about the spiritual reformation and think about how it is laying a foundation for the golden ages, not creating a hierarchy between the sky and the land, the yin and the yang, which inherently are not hierarchical. Even a secret societies or mafia, and I think Light on YouTube, and she said something very nice in one of her recent episodes. It says the people that are doing like a secret societies, they change who is the head of the organization often so that they would not be visible. So basically it's very funny because in a roundabout way they try to create some sort, they try to be invisible, and this is the Neptunian quality of them trying to have stealth wealth, leads them to the structure and foundation that would eventually create real wealth. Think about what is the higher frequency of treason. The low frequency of treason is, of course, to sell your family, your partners, your this, your that. The high frequency of treason is to be aware of one's own interest and not to be people-pleasing. Now, if we have a balance between that self-interest and through the harmony with the self-interest, we come through harmony that having boundaries to our, let's say, expansion and allowing other people and circumstances to be is basically good for us, because this is putting the boundary where we can grow. Okay, let's say if I grow that Melissa is an invasive species. Okay? It could take over the yard, but if I have a fence that limits the growth of the Melissa, then I can grow more plants. But it also reminds me, the fence serves a dual purpose. It reminds me that where I put the fence is how much the Melissa can grow. But this Melissa can grow for as much land as it can cover. And if I limit myself, then the limits will be how much I grow. And then the question is, what would be the good limit for myself and for humanity? Where would be a good place to put the fence? By the way, lemon balm is good for the nervous system. I love to take a leaf and to chew on it. But not right after the coffee or if you eat like cocoa, because they have tannins. And other type of teas, they have tannins because you want absorption of the minerals. So, back to Mula Nakshatra, it is looking at the root cause of things, so it's very compatible for medicines. But yet, let's say a person say, oh, this person has this Rahu Rohini, Mula Nakshatra, they want to have that energy. Okay, do they want to have my struggles too? Do they want to have the things that I transmuted? The things that they see me transmuting them, but can they carry that type of energy? For example, had a colleague couple that did astrology, but they did also talismans. And both of them were wearing a talisman of the third decan of Capricorn. One person was swimming in that energy like a fish. And one of them took a while to get used to that energy. So even you can think about having a talisman as a hack into the astrology without having to do stuff like destiny swaps or dark occult magic on people. And so even with that, one person was swimming in that energy like a fish. It was easier for them to be in that energy. One person, for example, I have a lot of fortune in that decan, and it would take time because it's a Saturn rule. But for me, I have detachment because I have Neptune in the beginning. I have Neptune Mula Nakshatra. So I have detachment and I say, wait a second. Before that, I even could see the consciousness of the creator of the talismans, one of the couple, is like almost getting pissed at me. It's like, when are you going to use that? I'm like, wait a second. Let that work. It's in my wallet. It's in my room. Let it work. When it arises, it arises. And then the things began to arise. Okay, the things were connected, whether it was currency or sovereignty, the personality calls, the Bilderberg Bells and Wound. And so you see how even if person, let's say, wants to do a destiny swap, then if I would recommend doing a talisman of the nakshatras that they desire. This way they get the good nakshatras and they don't get the residues. Like they don't have to deal with, I don't know, Venus opposing Pluto retrograde, Venus Sedna, or 22 Mars retrograde ruling over Saturn and Pluto, or and even if this is what they want, there are good elections for that, and that way they don't have to have the side effects of trying to take an energy of another person, because they can access that through doing a talisman. But even when one does a talisman, there is, for example, I did talisman of urine of beta per se. I would not prescribe that talisman to anyone. It's a talisman that you can make once in 84 years. But at the same time, I don't know if I would recommend people to have this talisman. It's a very challenging talisman to work with. And I did even a series with Beta Per Se. And I have a lot of family on Beta Per Se. There were many composites that I had, even Rao Beta Per Se. Astrology teacher I had has Rao Beta Per Se himself with Chiron. So I don't know if Chiron is in the same sign or not, but that energy was really accentuated in my chart at the same time. And it's not something I would prescribe, let's say, to anyone. So if people, instead of doing destiny swaps and all this dark occultism, people can do talismans. It's as difficult as to try to do destiny swap or whatever, however way to do that. And it's way more predictable because the person can control for what is in the chart, whereas with the person, not only they cannot control it, but as I take my energy back, they begin to have 9/11 on human trade. So now I know that there are some things that were fated for me to bring that 9/11 on human trade. I talked about BlackRock. Now BlackRock is in a series of a lot of criminal scandals. There was a CEO that was murdered. Now there was litigations, scandals with the private equity, a lot of things, and I wasn't bringing that on. It was just I was tapping into a timeline where I saw this company wants to own entire Earth. Well, these are the challenges that come because there are going to be people, let's say Palantir as well, wants to own entire Earth. Fantastic. But then what happens is that the person that owns the entire Earth, they have a chart. Now there are people that are going to be compatible with, people not going to be compatible with. Now each, let's say the moon incompatibility, okay? Depending on the Mula Nakshatra, it can be loss of ideas, loss of housing. It can be a financial crisis. It can be loss of children. It can be diseases. It can be even murder or letalities, depending on the karmic rope. And this is teaching I got from Sulada Dumcheva. So, for natives with Mula Nakshatra, yes, they will have to transmute a lot. And a lot, I mean a lot. It's the center of the galaxy. Think about the fact that for 7th October I have been in Israel with the war in Ukraine. Before that, I was in Netherlands during COVID, and none of that scheduled. 2007, I was in Europe as well, and that was pretty much. I said, by the way, I said Congo, Congo, Congo. U.S. is looting the minerals in Congo. That's why you don't hear about Congo. And Uranus Sedna in the United States, 7th house. They're basically trying to profit minerals from the civil war in Congo, and that being exposed during Uranus retrograde in the 7th house of United States. Yes, and Mercury in the 12th house. So think about this Mula Nakshatra as being at the center, not of the world, but of the galaxy. For example, when I was trying to dig half moons around the Dead Sea, I felt for the first time in my life something that looked like, and mind you, I've been working with Moldavite. Like, I actually think to buy Moldavite again. It's, by the way, good crystal for investment, but it's hard to find a good Moldavite that's not infused, because here's the thing, the non-ethical Moldavite is people that take cocaine. So the crystal will have energy of cocaine. Actually, when I first began to work with this crystal, I moved away from the prescribed amphetamines that I had to finish my second degree to study a certification in aromatherapy. And it was a funny moment where, for my first exams, for the first course, the first year, I was wondering, should I take amphetamines before the exam? And it was COVID, so I put some essential oil in my mask, and that's how I wore my mask. I don't know if it transmuted also the bad things in the mask into my nose, like to cross the blood-brain barrier. But hopefully I was not over-poisoning myself. By the way, I worked with not cilantro, the other one. I forgot that name. The seeds of the cilantro. That's the other one. It's a Mars-related herb. So it smells very good. Maybe I will buy it again. Anyway, that's what I was doing at COVID, learning about herbs and essential oils. That's the best thing to do at this time. So that is pretty much what it means. Okay, that's transmuting energy. What's the root cause of COVID? Heaven's sakes, the mafia. I don't know. Yes. By the way, I'm still trying to tend to my teeth, and it's very funny. Like I was trying to, in COVID, Saturn was squaring Uranus, and then and then I discovered that for anesthesia you have to have good nutrition. So I nourished myself, get rid of the human trafficking. Apartment that a rented apartment that I guess human traffickers were running it, so I stopped making business with traffickers, unbeknownst to me, of course, but that was that definitely needed to go before I tend to my teeth. And now I learned about ritual abuse, to the wealth consolidation and the missing people. So all these things have to do with, and around my Neptune square, I tend to my wisdom teeth. So Roth IRA. Yes, how many dentists have to sacrifice children to get the certification? I don't know. And how does it change the dentistry? And think about it today. I thought about the fact that Stalin did not have a doctor. Stalin had also midheaven in Mula Nakshatra. And Stalin was, yes, with the Bolsheviks, that later became the communists. And those people were trained. The education was by Rockefeller, a lot of the Bolsheviks. And for those who wonder where I got this from, there's this heritage site that has the where I got the algarhies from. So I will give you the name of the website. This was a while ago. Oh, I don't see it now. This was a while ago. Here it is, Heritage History. Yes. And there's a lot about the history of the Rockefellers, oil trade, really interesting stuff. And then Stalin basically did not have doctor because the Bolsheviks, they were trained by the Rockefellers, and the Rockefellers, they held a treason cult. And that's what happened to algarhies. None of the oil trade helped him because he got betrayed and he stayed in jail. So that was what's up. And this is basically affected Stalin because the doctor, there were no doctors. For doctors, you have to have trust in the medical field and the entire education system. And Stalin had to kill some doctors as well. So I don't know if the doctors that he killed were the good doctors or the bad doctors, but at the end of the day, he had no doctors. And I think about it as I have same ascendant and midheaven as Stalin, and I'm not a Bolshevik. By the way, the red in the red soccer groups, okay, Hapoel, Polk, Ajax, Ajax, Ajax. The Roth is Rothschild. So, particularly, yes, what can I say? This is funded, those supposed underground wealth redistribution groups are funded by those that get the biggest dividends. That's the oil companies and the bankers. And now it would be the metals and the minerals, because we're basically letting go and we move to solar and wave energy, which is beyond inevitable. Then we move back to the gold standard, which I think is just a pathway to. They want to have tokenization, which would mean that the rare minerals and metals are going to be more important. But if you don't want to go algorithms, then basically try to evade the treason cults as much as possible. They made it nearly impossible, but for those who are worried, how do I pull my money out of BlackRock? Don't worry, they are losing all of their money, which means that you are losing. If you have money, you are losing all of yours as well. But that was anyway invested in a treason cult, so that was never, it was an illusion of an investment, which is another Neptune facet. Um, but this was basically what happened to Stalin. When I think about myself, it's kind of like, well, it's a part of the things that perhaps I come to correct, and that lays the foundation to a lot of things that can create wealth that is perhaps actually wealthy. It's not a treason cult, I hope. So, more about Mula Nakshatra. Um, More about Mula Nakshatra is that, yes, as the person transmute those things that are quite significant, um, that can materialize as great wealth, whether materialize wealth or wealth of knowledge and wisdom, um, wealth in terms of peace. The background the background things that are happening right now. um, so yes, this is nakshatra. That means that a person will deal with some troubles, because it's usually if you're at the center of the galaxy, where you have major points in the center of the galaxy, then your environment is quite cosmic, okay, quite turbulent. I mean, not everybody has opens their social media feed to see which clone of the dead is in the yellow pages today, and what are they up to. Um, and totally by chance, with my Pluto square, Neptune square, not every person in the world has to deal with uh, uh, bankers that try to swindle billionaires to think that the billionaire will get healing, and the person tries to steal creative energy for some product, and kind of like, okay, like those are problems that not many people deal with. Mostly it's done probably in ways that they are not aware, but so much so that, yes, or wonder if that person that presented themselves as legacy management Grand Mason Lodge of the Rothschilds is a troll or not. And the fact that there is a possibility that they are not, not everybody deals with that. So, but the experience is, I believe, for those who have Mula Nakshatra, for many of you, sometimes maybe you wonder, is this even real? And and really, I want you to think about the center of the galaxy. I want you to think about something that is the thing that changes everything, and the transmutations that really change the world. And if you have such points, it's quite close to the Rao Chiron, because, and I have also Rao Chiron, Rao Rohini, yes, but and this is because you're meant to transform the core of things. And for example, even in holistic medicine, even there, and this is where the Chiron, Rao Chiron, because Chiron is about, and Chiron is where all the medicines are like Swiss cheese, and sometimes Swiss the Swiss bank has something to do with that. That's the hole in the cheese. But when I was in between houses, I said all the solutions look like Swiss cheese, and perhaps the Swiss bank had something to do with that. Um, and indeed, that was by design. So this is a situation where all the doctors and all the medicines are not suffice. Perhaps Ashvini Nakshatra is the end of Aries, beginning of Taurus. Actually, I have Venus Sedna on Ashvini Nakshatra, and Mercury on Ashvini. And Ashvini is the doctor of doctors. So what is common to all of those is that the best of the best of the best of the best of the sciences at your current time, if you have these placements, are not suffice. And and this is because you came to transform and transmute things according to the spirit of the times. Now, the magic around that is that, yes, you're at a juncture that is beyond the frontier. It's every frontier. It's a science frontier, it's a spiritual frontier, it's a economy frontier, it's an eternal transmutation frontier. So it's definitely, yes, it's quite an important place. The challenge is that all of the traditions are not something you can easily rely on. There is a generation that has Saturn-Uranus conjunction on that in Mula Nakshatra. This is a generation that basically came to completely innovate the sciences and create completely new fields of science. And I've had a consultation with a lady that does something around the fertility science. Actually, I need to catch a conversation with her. It's important. I hope I have her number. I have her husband's number. But this is interesting, and this is the thing about this nakshatra, that all of the big medicines, all of the big science, let's say if you have a problem, you look at who did that before. Somebody must have dealt with that before. No, people are only building up the solutions to that. And when it comes to healing, that can be very challenging, a very isolating experience. To others, you might look even like, oh, the best doctors is not good enough for you. The best medicine is not good enough for you. The best, housing solutions, okay. The best careers, is that all of that not good enough for you? And mind you, it's a Jupiter sign, so for ladies, the best men are not good enough for you. Well, they will have to transmute this thing that they're addicted to endocrine. If they transmute that, it can be fantastic, and so on and so forth. But this is exactly the situation with the Mula Nakshatra. Paul can ask it if that's a documentary. I don't know. I mean, the social engineers are so. Neptune rules addictions. And what is the addiction of addictions? Is endocrine. The Mayans did it, the Aztecs did it. Whenever each society that did that fell, but they forget to mention that part. So, that's the missing detail. But it's addiction, so the way how people treat addiction, connection, compassion, self-compassion, a balance between self-compassion and accountability. Some mint oil, apparently, some rose, or to grow in something that, if it's on the Saturn, then it's ruled like agriculture. If it's on the Jupiter, um, then I don't know, faith in self, optimism, um, and tending to the wounds around that, those religious practices or spiritual practices that were of transmutation. Okay, so it's like if we're going to do like the Aztecs and the Mayans, we're going to have a cookbook, and as I said, there was this great society, great this, great that, and they were. They found great wisdom. It is indeed great wisdom to destroy humanity with the lower astral. Is indeed great. Very few people survived to tell, and and then it's history. So depending on who you ask, those who survived will always consider themselves the winners. Uh, and so, um, but this is also why Mula Nakshatra, and thank Karpil, because Karpil is the one that inspired me to read about Mula Nakshatra more, because he said to his people that Venus in Mula Nakshatra can also be a sign of billionaires. For me, it's Ketu there, so it's probably not materialistic in that sense. Ketu not in that nakshatra. Ketu is in the Sagittarius, but my midheaven is Mula Nakshatra. So at best, I can be the type of wealthy person that their wealth is also good balance spiritually, because it's kind of like wealthy in a way that is both um, spiritually wealthy, but not with trauma, but hopefully with joy of living. And the material wealth is also to do with joy of living, not like endocrine torture and abuse, but actual prosperity. Okay. Um, so more about Mula Nakshatra. Um, yes, it's a challenging placement because basically a person um, has to whatever the planet is associated with that, when that planet matures. Let's say I'm now in my Neptune square. So the circle of energies that's been around um, is with Neptune is something completely channeling as well. It's quite, it's quite a circle, it's quite And with Neptune, you're kind of like, is it real? Is it not? Okay, for the sake of it, let's see. Let's roll with it and see what happens. But what bothers me? Okay, but the endocrine addictions bother me. The lineage that are based on torture and the torture rituals bother me. Those things. And hey, if we transmute them, then it's the Wi-Fi of next couple of millennia. That's something that even the Mayans and the Aztecs didn't try to do, and and that's an opportunity. If you think what's the one thing that changes everything about the monarchy, about the aristocracy, about the elite, about any financial wealth, any spiritual, or the spiritual practices associated with that, because people think, oh, monarchies is just about power. Yeah, but power is also spiritual. And so um, and so this is why sometimes the fact that it looks like it's unreal But unfortunately, also some of the suffering can look like it's unreal. It is. Which, yes, which is something that is megalithic to transmute. Um, and it's in the edge where words are not. It's like the people running out of words to describe. Um, for example, state of Israel has Jupiter in this nakshatra, and Jupiter 29 degrees, and indeed this is in the fourth house of Israel, and indeed um, in the third house of Israel, um, which is both neighboring countries, but also can have to do with the infrastructure. And that had to do with the tunnels, perhaps. Although, it's Pluto Leo, so why the tunnels? I don't know why. It shows me as the tunnels. Okay, let me think about it. Tunnels would be Saturn Pluto. It's the fifth house. The children in the tunnels. Um, because of the religious practices that create the tunnels, which is ritual abuse. Oh, they think it would bring Geulah. They think it would bring salvation to torture children and have this endochrome addiction. And yes, and that's something that Israel itself has to transmute. And this has opposition, maybe thankfully, to Uranus and Venus. Venus. 444 as I speak. I was told it's associated with Archangel Gabriel that talks about something that's already completed. And now they talk about returning of the kidnapped. I say Trump is having a negotiation with himself. But it's not something that I know. It's just me being frustrated about those rituals, you know. But Gabriel, I was told, is like the verdict has already happened for humanity. Now people saw two rainbows. Now rainbow is I know there's weather engineering, so they try to revive the biblical scriptures doing socially with technology. Um, okay. There are fights between Hamas and some Hamula in Gaza port. There is Hamula war in Gaza. Like they haven't even. You know what is Hamula wars? Hamula wars is basically like a tribal war. It can be like 1,000 people fighting 1,000 people. We had that in Soroka Hospital in Beersheba once. There were people thought it's a big terror, big war happening. Nothing, just Hamula war. Family Abu Varda had killed people, and people that were displaced were wounded. It's Gaza port. The crime families are fighting over the port. Um, Baraguti won't be released in the deal. I can't believe that. The kidnapped people, they get to support to acquire apartment and therapy, and they will have 250,000 shekels to buy apartment. Now, apartment in Israel is no less than $1.5 or $2 million, not shekel. So they get nothing, and that is not enough for apartment. And by the way, there's the problem about the rituals, that the people that went to 2 years of torture would be extremely sensitive to rituals. Let's say a baby died, buried alive in some real estate, they would not be able to sleep, and people will say it's because of the trauma, but it's also because they will see that baby. They begin to see timelines. So, for example, when they did the tremendous rituals on me in 2019, I tried to ground myself, and I said, I see wars, I see these amputated people, I see, and a lady says, no, just ignore that. Because I had fear to ground myself. Um, and I held the tree, then I really looked crazy. Now I'm thinking half moons for the tree. The one of the social engineers or the watchers, I don't know, they were joking at me because with my half moons, they show me half moon was a colonialist ship that they were. So, um, okay. Um, and yes, the stocks went up. Um, Tel Aviv 35, Tel Aviv 90, Tel Aviv 125 went up. The real estate went up. Tel Aviv construction and Tel Aviv real estate 9%, 6.6. Armstrong 15% up. Pershkovsky 14% up, and Israel Canada 12.8% up with the deal. I would again watch my laser focused series on Jupiter, Point of Dallas. Watch my episodes that I talk about the real estate. Okay, I talked about the real estate. It has this Vogue. I just put Vogue there as a joke, but okay. But watch this episode. I'm not excited about the stock rise with the deal. That's looking at real estate so superficially, and in general, the stock market is very superficial. So, for people that understanding that, they funnel the wealth here and there, but for the average Joe is probably not accessible. The only people that try to do something about it were the Robin Hoods. And again, I don't. Every time there's a big organization, we don't know who runs it and who funds that. That happens with the Bolshevik. Now, of course, the monarchy needed decentralization, but the Bolsheviks weren't quite the answer. So you see, with Mula Nakshatra, um, that's the type of things that the type of things that people are running into. Because those big problems of the world are for a person becoming something that affects their personal life more immediately, sometimes to the point that they are a little bit of an embodiment of that. Um, Holistic healing of anything Saturn or Jupiter is going to be highly predictive for these people. Um, yes, and more things to say about Mula Nakshatra. Um, well, to be honest, it's not a boring place. So there's always something to learn, Jupiter. There is always, yes, something to transmute. Um, rest. It's okay. אחר כך. שים את זה. There's always something to learn. There's always something to transmute. But also, the things that one witnesses or even is dissociated from can be beyond challenging. Yes, and here is the story. Great wealth is something that comes with great energy transmutation. Even if it's not Pluto there, it's something that one is called to, something that is very, very, if you deal with the big problems of the world, then yes, there is great light that comes from that. But it's also, there's a reason why the big problems of the world, or the thing that changes everything, are big problems. Those that have placements in Mula Nakshatra, to a certain degree, maybe Ashwini and Rohini as well, but those that have placements in Mula Nakshatra are fated to tend to the big, big problems of the world. And this is the blessing with this nakshatra, but also, yes, this is the curse. Because it's not that someone, well, it's not the curse, but yes, for many people they can, it's secret societies. but this is exactly the thing, because it means that the native that carries that, they can't get away with not thinking about the big problems of the world. If they would go and talk to their friends would be maybe, depending on the friends, yes, but it would be, hey, why do you need to tend to all these deep things or go all these deep roads, and just mind your business, just live your life. Doesn't work with that nakshatra. And it's not always malintending, because with that nakshatra, the path is not to deny oneself or evade, but actually to tend to. And this is where, in that mess, there is also a lot of wealth, because basically what the natives in Mula Nakshatra are doing is moving the compost of that black hole until some light comes out. A lot of people have been wondering why I'm not Luciferian in the Baphometian sense, and this is because endochrome addiction is an addiction. Okay, so no, I don't support torturing people for the sake of enlightenment, And also, I realistically appraise that so-called enlightenment is addiction to endochrome, where the enlightenment is